Welcome to the Esoerotic Dark Feminine Magic Podcast. My name is Crimson, creatrix of Esoeroticism, and I help mystically minded folks awaken their dark feminine magic. Welcome to the Portal of Enchantment. Welcome, Tara Valkyrie, to the Esoerotic Dark Feminine Magic Podcast. Oh my gosh, Tara, I have been looking forward to this conversation since like 2025 because this is our February astrology update,
Mm.
and we have been talking, especially within the multiverse, about how this is the month, February 2026, where it all changes. And so, Tara, what are some words you have for us? Give us the tea.
Okay, so three words when I was kind of, doing my downloads for this. Um, Courage, authenticity, and I know there's a loaded word, sacrifice.
Courage,
But I mean it in an
authenticity.
empowering way. Yes.
Ah, listen. Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be an interesting one, but I'm going to start off saying that our theme of the month for February is what we're calling the catalyx. So it's like the catalyst, but that X for me, when I put that on the end of words, always represents that it's embodied through the dark feminine.
Mhm.
And so we are talking about using our like innate dark energy, our sexuality, our creativity, our
Yes.
uncomfortable truths, are all of these things to instill change. And one of the things we say in the description is that you have to get uncomfortable and be willing to get uncomfortable for a greater purpose. That if you're desiring
Mhm.
personal evolution, which can lead to an external revolution.
Yes. I mean, any kind of growth. I mean, just think from, to use embodiment as an example in esoerotic dance. All of us have been there when we first start this movement and this practice. We're like, "Ugh, where are my elbows?" Like, I still remember being that way when I first
Yes.
started embodied movement, and you at first you're learning where you are in your body, and then any type of movement to get growth, there's got to be discomfort, there's resistance. I mean, when you think of working out, of exercising, of dancing, movement, and as above so below, that ripples out into everything. And there's so much Aries energy coming in. I know, last month Neptune had moved into Aries. This month, February, we got Saturn going into Aries. We got the big conjunction that's happening in Aries, and Aries it's the courageous warrior spirit. Aries is ruled by Mars, so all of this movement, Neptune and Saturn also are going to have a Martian quality, which is about embodiment. And like when I say authenticity, I'm not like, it's cute. I'm just going to say whatever I'm thinking and everyone has to deal with it. Authenticity means, are you connected to your sovereign truth? Are you connected to your body wisdom? Um, which is vital to, as you're moving through this evolution and biology nerd moment. Evolution takes discomfort, like to get into that higher expression. We are shedding, we are growing, we are experiencing discomfort in the short term so that we can have the long-term thriving.
I think I love that you brought that up as a theme because I was definitely feeling into that too, and thinking of how that is such a prominent message that I'm feeling
Mhm.
right now because I'm challenging myself with that.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, this is not going to be comfortable, or I'm so used to convenience, or I'm so used to things being easy, or I'm so used to not like challenging or having to maybe have more debates around things that truly are me expressing my truth. And it's just, and it all comes, what I always think when it returns to authenticity is
Mhm.
that because we're for something. And that's what's important, I think, is that
Mm.
this month and beyond, we can't just be against something.
Yes.
Authenticity comes from knowing what you are for, and
Yes.
therefore we are willing to get a little uncomfortable in
Mhm.
devotion to that. And then you said
Yeah.
courage was the other word, and that takes
Courage.
courage.
Yes. And courage is not the absence of fear. It's not there's some like cheesy John Wayne quote that's like courage ain't being afraid, it's knowing you got to saddle up anyway. I totally fucked it up, but it's something like that. It's something like super like
Okay,
John Wayne.
daddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cowboy daddy. But it's recognizing and I love what you said about like knowing what you are for, not just knowing what you're against. And that goes back to like with, embodiment. Oftentimes we're so focused on what we don't want, but then when it comes to knowing what do we want, we're like, well, I don't know. And it is so important to be directing our energy toward the reality, the resources, whatever it is that we are for. And that's a vital thing that it's easy to get caught up in, like, the pushing back against what we're not okay with. And that's so important. Like, obviously we need to, condemn what we're not okay with, but we also need to be like, okay, what are we directing our energy toward that is going to thrive in place of the thing we don't want? It's just, oh, it's
Yes.
so important. And I love that you brought that up.
Well, and because, let's be clear, we're not in Aries season. So Aries
No,
season doesn't happen till the end of March, right?
right.
And so, but let's talk about the astrology, because why is Tara
Mhm.
talking about all this Aries energy? It's
Yeah.
being activated, even though the sun isn't in Aries. What
Mhm.
else do we have in Aries?
Okay, so yeah, and right now, the sun is in Aquarius. We always start out February with the sun in Aquarius. The reason why I'm talking about so much Aries is because we have Neptune in Aries, just moved in there January
Just
26th,
If
just got in
anyone
there.
felt like that last week of January felt like, what the hell did I just experience, where I'm
Yes.
feeling such a shift? I can say that I was like, who am I? What's going on? I
Yeah.
felt like I went through a weird mystical portal of like a little more self awakening. That
Hmm.
was Neptune going into Aries, because y'all, Neptune has been in Pisces since what, 2011?
Yeah,
Just
2011.
like a big, like, think about, you have been in this and we talked about this in the last podcast, so people can go back, but a shift from that Pisces energy of the planet of dreaminess and of
Hmm.
illusions as well, being in the in
Ether.
illusion and
Yeah.
spirituality and, nebulousness. And now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm in Aries now. And
Yes.
Aries is, tell us what Aries energy is. Even though we talked
Aries
about
is
it a little bit,
yeah.
let's expand upon that.
So Aries is rocket fuel, basically. Aries is cardinal fire. It is the first sign of the zodiac. It is ready to go. It is forward movement. And that's part of also why it's so important that we're focusing on what we are for, because Aries wants to move forward. And here's the thing is, as I've said before, every sign, every energy has a higher expression, a lower expression. Higher expression of Aries is that rocket fuel. It is courage. It is momentum forward, progress forward. Aries is not afraid to jump into the unknown. Um, I will hype Aries and say they're the bravest sign of the zodiac. They're like, cool, unknown territory. Let's do it. Let's fuck it up. They are act first, think later. Now, lower expression of Aries. Lower expression, if they can't move forward, they're going to fuck shit up. They're going to set it on fire. They're going to destroy it.
Everyone think lovingly of your favorite Aries friends right
Yes, think
now. And now you're
lovingly.
like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
and
why
I
they
have
are the
so
way
many
they
Aries
are.
in my life that I adore, and like they're gonna listen to this and be like, "You were talking about me."
I love Aries energy.
I
Yeah.
do too. I do too. And I have an Aries Mercury, which is a lot of fun because I've got a Pisces Venus, Pisces Sun, Pisces Rising, and they're all like, "Ooh," and my Mercury is like, "This is what we're gonna do." um, which is why I have jobs where I can cuss, because it just was not working out
Yes.
before.
Mercury is the planet of communication, y'all. So if you're
Yeah.
communicating like an Aries, you are telling it like it is, and you
Yes.
got some fire in your belly as you speak it.
Yes.
And you told us last month that Aries was the opposite of Aquarius, meaning that Aquarius is more the we and Aries is the me. And
Right.
so I think that there's how would you see that expressed right now?
So it's really fascinating because, Aquarius is one of the air signs. It's fixed air. And, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, all the air signs, that is about an outward connection. Whereas, Aries, because it's the first sign of the zodiac, it traditionally rules the first house. So no matter what your rising sign, what your first house is, there's Aries qualities to that. So
Mhm.
it is about the survival of self,
Okay.
and the pure, unfiltered embodiment of your will acting outward. What's really powerful right now is, yes, we've got the sun in Aquarius. Um, we've got some other planets in Aquarius. We've got Venus in Aquarius, Mars in Aquarius. We got Pluto in Aquarius, which is, Pluto's been getting a lot of attention lately, because when we have this combination of a bunch of planets in Aquarius, and then we've got Neptune and soon to be Saturn moving into Aries, we have this awareness of the collective, our place in it, our value in it, the value of the collective, as well as the value of the individual. And, you know, one very potent example of this is what is going on in Minneapolis. We are looking at, this city, and we have, ICE moved in. They started, pulling people from their homes. They started, they were not acting for anyone's best interest other than their own. And what's very Aquarius and Aries is the way the citizens of Minneapolis came out and they said, hey, we're not okay with this. And as we
So
move
they
forward,
personally, as the
yes,
me, showed up
yes,
for the we.
exactly.
Because they saw how I am a part of the bigger we. I'm not
Yeah,
independent of it. Okay, got you. Keep
right.
going.
I love that. I am a part of the bigger we. And they recognized, okay, if this group is going to come for these people and I allow this, eventually they're going to come for me. Um and it's beyond just the, oh, I'm only going to do this because they could come for me, because obviously it's very dangerous. As what we're seeing, we're seeing American citizens murdered, we're seeing journalists being arrested, we're seeing all of these horrible acts. And the reality is like, that's part of that courage of Aries melding with Aquarius, of recognizing the fate of that person is the fate of me. And I'm going to stand up for both of us. That person, may not be able to advocate for themselves. I'm going to advocate for us. And then you have all these other people that are coming for, like, I'm also advocating. And so it's a really, really potent example of the power of when we have the higher embodiment of Aries and Aquarius coming together. That it starts to, it gains attention. It starts to enact change. And that's kind of, January and February set the theme for the rest of the year, whether you're looking at Gregorian year or whether you're looking at astrological year.
Oh yeah, we haven't even got into the lunar new year that's happening
Yeah.
mid-month. Oh my, y'all, we're on like day 2 of February. So, okay, let's venture a little further into February, because I know we start with the full moon on the
Correct.
1st
Yep. We
in
get things
Leo.
started, and that's in Leo. So that's another fire sign. And that's the thing, is as we start off February with this fire energy, which, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, those are all the fire signs. That is about embodied action. And all the fire signs thrive, Leo especially, when we're taking action empowered action on our behalf, moving towards something.
Mm.
You know, and you know, Leo's also about authenticity. It is about open expression. And so that sets the stage, because the full moon in Leo, that is within that portal leading to the solar eclipse new moon in Aquarius. That's also Lunar New Year. That's when the year of the fire horse starts. So I hope all y'all know how to ride horses, because it's going to get crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yes. This is what I've been really waiting to talk about. So we had the full moon on the first, but then 2 weeks later, we go into the new moon. So tell us about this new moon, because it is our first eclipse of 2026.
It is. And so, and you notice it's in Aquarius, even though, if, you know, we talked last month about how we're wrapping up the eclipse cycle in Pisces and Virgo. In July, that's when the nodes officially switch into Aquarius Leo. But this first eclipse, the first of 6, marks that new energy that's shifting. And so there's going to be a heightened focus on the collective, and not just what's going on in our country, but what's going on globally. Because one of the biggest lessons is, as I said earlier, the fate of we is the fate of me. And so we're learning that we can't continue to operate in this mindset of isolated exceptionalism.
Wait, what? But America! America!
America! I know. Yeah, so
You know,
we're
we see what I mean, we talk about the revolution happening in Minneapolis, but then look at Iran, you know, and
Mhm.
we're looking around the world. This is not, like you said, an isolated, this is what's local to us because we
Sure.
live in America, Tara and I. But if you look
Yeah.
outside of our borders or boundaries, this shit's happening fucking everywhere.
Yes, and I may catch some shit for saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Speak your
Um,
authentic truth.
yes. So part of what we're learning, and I don't say this to be flippant, but this is my Aries mark way of saying it. We're learning right now that we are not special. Yes, what is going on in Minneapolis is unprecedented for our country. However, when you look at, you know, there's been things like this in Egypt, in Syria, where in China, where groups of citizens recognized, hey, what is going on is not right. It is inhumane. We're not going to stand for it. We are going to protest. And then having the pushback. And so it's one of those, and that's not to diminish what is going on. In fact, quite the opposite. It's to realize that this is a human experience. And once again, we are being called to step into courage, recognizing injustice and being like, okay, I could be passive. I could stay in my home. I could, you know, try to ignore it, or I could realize that ignoring it's not going to make it go away. In fact, that's going to make it worse. I'm going to show up and make my voice heard.
And yeah, we all have our lane, you know, but I just think about, bringing back the Iranian protest right now.
Mm-hmm.
30,000 people have been
Oh,
killed
yeah.
by their government
Yeah.
for protesting. They've been without internet for almost a month.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we
Mm-hmm.
have such privilege right
Yes.
now. And I've been really recognizing that. Like, man,
Yes.
we've had the privilege to be able to turn off and say, oh, well, I'm only concerned about my wallet. So if this
Mm-hmm.
doesn't impact my money, or if this doesn't impact the people in my immediate community or my immediate family, then like, ooh, yeah, I gotta go there. I'm
Yeah,
just
do
gonna
it.
love it. I'm just gonna love and light, and I'm just going to be the light in the world, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm
And
not
I
gonna let
think
the anger
I'm
poison
not
me.
going to, yeah. Oh my gosh. I did a little story the other day. listen, this podcast is going to go all over, so deal with it, y'all. But this is how Tara and I talk when we're not being recorded as well. So we go all over. But I was listening to a podcast from another astrologer who I really like, Pam Gregory, and I can't listen to her anymore because she was like, I don't listen to the news. We shouldn't be listening to the news.
Yeah.
It's so low vibe. And I was like, wow, you're using, that's bypassing. And
Mm-hmm.
this is where you and I agree, because we've talked about this, is that
Yeah.
the whole point of these spiritual tools that we have, so I consider eroticism a spiritual tool,
Yeah, it
our
absolutely is.
erotic dance and our movements and our community initiatives and our embodiment practices and all of
Mm-hmm.
these things are meant to ground us and root us in our earthly experiences, meaning we don't bypass, we don't ignore, we can stay in our body, and we can stay rooted in our energy and our truth as we are witnessing atrocities. Because to turn your head and say, that's below me, is
Right.
pretty gross. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not of that vibration. Oh, you're too high vibe for genocide. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that dark feminine,
Yeah.
and that's where we talk
Mm-hmm.
about the dark feminine here all the time. The dark feminine, this isn't just, I'm just a sexy dancer, or I'm just like a cool witch. It's not,
Yeah.
this is why we use the word, we are the dark feminine devotion, because that's
Mm-hmm.
being able to look into the discomfort of the darkness, the taboo,
Yeah.
the hidden, being able to look at genocide, to be able to look at revolution and injustices
Mm-hmm.
and not lose our goddamn minds. And
Yeah.
also because that's the only way that we can participate in rectifying the better alternatives, and being part of like
Yeah.
of releasing the injustices. I'm just getting riled up. But yeah,
No, it's so
when I'm
true.
seeing spiritual people being like, I'm too high vibe for the news, grow
Right.
up. You were an adult.
You're an adult, and part of our journey of elevation, of ascension. I don't mean that in like the culty way. I mean that in just like
You mean when we drink the Kool-Aid together?
yes, and the
Yeah.
aliens can pick us up. Like
Get your Nikes on. We're getting on the
oh
UFO.
God, get your Nikes on. Yeah, it's just like part of a part of me is like, have none of y'all been paying attention the entire fucking time that Neptune was in Pisces? Because that journey, and I know I've got some beef with some astrologers because they're shitting all over Neptune and Pisces because they're done with it. But the reality is what you hopefully learned with Neptune and Pisces is there is strength in feeling. There is strength in your humanity. And, yes, absolutely. You and I have talked before. It's not good if we watch the news and we become so overwhelmed that to the point of inaction.
Yeah.
That we're just like, I can't do anything except doom scroll, or I can't do anything
Correct.
except like yell about the politician I hate. It's recognizing like, oh gosh, that's horrible. My heart's breaking. Maybe, I'm having this embodied reaction to what is going on because I care, and I recognize that could have been me if I were in a different geographic location.
That's
And
empathy. That's Pisces.
yes, and more of my propaganda. Empathy is not a sin.
I love that you did say that, because we are not trying to radicalize people to go strap themselves with bombs and do crazy shit. That's not who you and I are as people. We like to think that we try to, and we're doing this work on ourselves too, right? Like,
yes.
Okay, when do I have to pull myself away? When do I have to manage my own energy? But if you can't see it at all, that's avoidance. And we don't advocate for avoidance. We advocate for staying in your power, and that you need to use the resources allotted to you. That's why we have our community and we have our offerings, because we think that they can be really supportive to people in these times.
Yeah.
But find your community, find your tools. Like Pisces taught us that we have spiritual tools that
Mhm.
can aid us in our, earthly journey.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is like to remember we're taking all of these lessons from Saturn and Neptune being in Pisces and we're taking that into Saturn and Neptune being in Aries. And because you're taking all this awareness, because that's the thing. If I had to distill down to one word or two words with the Pisces journey, it's empathetic awareness.
Mm.
And then because it's like it was almost like we were at ashram and then now we're leaving. We're going back into the real world and we're taking what we learned to act upon it in a courageous way.
And you think about, we only hear about the monks who are meditating on the mountaintop, but that was in preparation.
Exactly.
We don't hear about the monks who then go into battle,
Right.
and that's we do the work in
Mhm.
easy times
Mhm.
so that we can then show up in more complicated times and not just fall apart.
Right, exactly. And that this is where that, what we keep talking about is, the esoerotic embodiment becomes so important during this time, especially after the Aquarius new moon, especially after
Mm.
the lunar new year, because this entire journey, what we're talking about going into battle. Battle doesn't have to be fighting someone. It is just knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for and knowing what you are to take action for. Like that's gonna be the most
Right.
powerful thing, the
And
most
I
powerful
always
catalyst.
Yeah, I think of eroticism as an Aries energy often
Yeah.
because it is active, but it
Mhm.
is very it's a very self-sourced, the I, it's a
Yep.
self-sourced power that is also rooted in pleasure,
Yeah.
and that is that sexual energy, which is creative energy, which is creation. And
Mhm.
therefore, let's redefine what it means to live in our Aries energy. It doesn't mean we have to go do like some masculine type of militarization.
Yeah.
Even though for some people their that is how they do it, but it could be I'm moving my money from a bank to a local credit union. It could be that I am going to get uncomfortable in my consumerism, and instead of
Mhm.
having all my fancy little treats, or I'm going to support small business and I'm going to look into,
Local cheese.
convenience. Yeah, yeah. Is convenience always great for the better population? Is it that I'm going to choose to dance tonight instead of doom scroll,
Yeah.
because I really see how that will have me be able to go out in the world and be a more empowered version of myself, whatever. So,
Yeah.
I sorry, we need to return. Okay, so we have the new moon solar
Yes.
eclipse in Aquarius. What date is this happening?
Okay, so the date is February 17th.
Mhm.
Technically, 6:01 a.m. Central Time. So if you're in Texas,
Mm.
6:01 a.m. 7:01 a.m. if you're where Crimson is.
Yes, the Chilams, know your time zones.
Know the time zones. Yeah, and this is gonna feel like an understatement because man, January. But this is an energy of one, we're becoming even more aware, if that's possible. Yes, it is, of the true motivations of a lot of our authority structures. Now, what is going to shift? Because the other thing, I mean, mark your calendars, y'all. The week of February 17th is so powerful because we have that solar eclipse new moon. And by the way, anytime we have a solar eclipse, that a solar eclipse one always occurs at a new moon. And the overall meaning of a solar eclipse has to do with some kind of conscious awareness that arises. Sometimes it's just kind of a knowing that pops up. Other times there's some kind of external event that kind of shocks us into this new awareness. The other thing I will say though is it is always something that we're like, you know what? I knew about that.
That makes sense because it was something that was maybe like eclipsed that and then in that moment of eclipse when we come out, you're like, "Oh, that's revealed."
Yeah, it's literally like there was
Revealing something
something,
that was hidden.
and then you're like, oh, yeah. And then so right after that, so we've got that.
Okay, we got it. February 17th.
Yeah, and because it's in Aquarius, that deals with the collective. And again, all of February, because full moon's in Leo, new moon's in Aquarius, all of February is about that relation between us and other, self and group. This is also where we begin to, like, I know, end of January, there's that strike that's going on where it's don't buy anything from big boxes. If you have to buy stuff, go local, pay cash. More of that is going to become common because part of what February is about is we're starting to remember our power as a collective. Specifically in America, we may not feel this way all the time, but in reality, we have the power. When we don't play into those systems, when we don't fight with each other left and right, when we start to recognize that, as we've said, it's top and bottom, democracy versus authoritarianism, us the people trying to, like, we are moving toward, we're promoting, we're working for democracy. And I just mean the general, like, system of governing, not Democrat necessarily. So
Right.
just system of governance, not political party. I'm just clarifying that because I was talking to one of my older family members and they got confused. So I was like, okay, yeah, they're detoxing from their choices. So I was like, no, come on.
I really like
Come
this. Yeah, because when we have this identity, right, of like, well, I've always been a Republican, or I've always been a
Right.
Democrat, or I've always been a liberal, or I've always been a conservative. It's really nice to strip away I'm a Republican, so I have to do everything that Republicans say. I'm a Democrat, so I have to do everything Democrats say. That's how you get polarized. That's how you get controlled, by identifying with a ruling body in one way or the other. But it's nice to allow that to say, well, what were my values in that? What was it about conservatism that I identify with? What about liberalism? And then how can I find commonality or purpose within that versus all of my action is towards being anti the other side, because that's called polarity, and that's how we are in this mess.
Yeah, no,
And what the illusion being, I think we're coming out of that illusion,
Yeah, and like I love what you say about being controlled, because when we when we get attached to a label, that's giving away our power. That's what it is. And the astrology, so 3 days after the new moon, on February 20th, is we have the great Saturn and Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries.
Bom, bom, bom.
Bom, bom, bom. Pretend I said that in like Gandalf's voice.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could have just like a useless superpower, it would be like to randomly like be able to speak in like, Gandalf's.
I love it. I hear it in my mind. It's
Yes, picture it in your mind.
amazing.
Yes. So this is a really fucking big deal. That is an official astrological term, you guys. Really fucking big deal.
Big deal.
So first off, Neptune and Saturn come together every 36 years. So that part, them meeting in the sky, is, in and of itself is like, okay, that happens every 36 years. Whatevs. Now, the last time they met at 0 degrees Aries was like 9,000 years ago.
I was like, I don't even think they know, right? Like, I think it came together at like 2 degrees and like, but like, yeah, it's been like beyond when they can calculate, which is crazy. Like, but you're
like
right.
9,000, like
the closest was like, 9,000 years ago. And speak real quickly to the significance of 0 degrees Aries versus like 5 degrees Aries.
Okay, so 0 degrees Aries is one of the world points or the world angles. And the world points in astrology are 0 degrees of any of the cardinal signs. So Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Cardinal signs are beginning energies. Now, so any of the cardinal signs are beginning energies. Now, Aries is the beginning of the beginning because it's the first sign of the zodiac. 0 degrees means it is starting off seismic shifts globally, culturally. To give you an example, 9,000 years ago, the last time that we had this going on, humans were a nomadic species. We were wandering around. We were just trying to find animals, digging shit out of the earth, doing our thing. 9,000 years ago is when we started. They're pretty sure women discovered and started agriculture.
I believe it.
Yeah. Now the problem is then we got patriarchy, but that's another podcast. Bottom line, massive cultural shift that changed our literal evolution. Like they have done studies about the gestation and things like that shifted because of this new thing.
Because we
So
could settle. This is the first
yes,
time we could, yeah. So that changes how an
Mhm.
entire world functions.
Yeah,
That's crazy that
we
that
could
was the
settle.
last time.
We had better nutrition. We were living longer. I mean, all this stuff started to happen. So that's the magnitude. And I know it can be hard to think about, like, okay, because like now we have HEB, HEB couldn't have happened without that thing 9,000 years ago, you guys.
For those who don't know, HEB is like the best grocery store in
That's
Texas.
right.
And I was thinking about it yesterday when I was in Food Lion, and I was like, fuck this shit.
Oh my God. Yeah. I've been in the Food Lion.
You don't need to go back anyway.
Yeah.
That's about supporting a company that actually is considers its local communities, is that's a grocery store you want to support. I've actually looked up all of the local grocery stores to see like what I felt comfortable giving my dollar towards, and like I actually choose every other week to drive down to Trader Joe's like 50 minutes away just to tell you the selection. But yeah. Anyway, go on. Agriculture 9,000 years ago.
9,000 years ago, there were no HEBs, there were no Food Lions. But that's the magnitude. It shifted the trajectory of our existence as a species. That's where we are again.
So, okay. Because I'm holding back, but we got Saturn and we have Neptune. So we understand the importance. It's at 0 degrees Aries. That is a world-changing degree. Yes. And now we have Neptune and Saturn meeting there. Can you just break down like what specifically that energy is feeding it?
Yeah. So this is a really interesting energy because if you just look at Saturn and Neptune, they seem like opposites. Saturn is the builder, Neptune is the dreamer. Saturn is like reality, boundaries, responsibility, reward. Neptune is like, let's do shrooms and dream about it. Let's just go traveling.
I feel like Saturn is our like our lawyer, accountant, studying, doing all of the disciplined type of work. And then Neptune's like, yeah, I love it, but what if we did this on shrooms?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if? Yeah. So, but the reality is nothing that Saturn builds. It's not possible unless unless you have Neptune involved. Thinking about what we're doing now, we are in two separate states talking on the internet. This started in the realm of Neptune. Someone had to think up, everything from the computers we're on to the software systems, the internet, all of these things, and then it had to be brought into reality. And so this is a meeting of Saturn, the builder, Neptune, the dreamer, coming together in Aries at 0 degrees, which is this huge ignition point. Because also 0 degrees is pure unfiltered of that sign. So 0 degrees
Mm,
Aries is just, again, raw rocket fuel.
let's go,
Yeah,
baby.
let's fucking go.
So, what I love about this is like we're us having this conversation with, our community and anyone
Mhm.
else listening. This is why I love astrology because we are aware of it. And sometimes
Yeah,
just being aware of the energetic inclination just puts us at such an advantage. And this is not a predictive, it's going to look like this. We
right.
can't tell you what it's going to look like. We can just tell where the energy's going, right? But just
Mhm.
knowing the energetic potential means we can work with it and we're not going to be blindsided. And something that I've been trying to talk to like my more mundane friends about is like,
Mhm.
I know this thing that you're so concerned about is like, it's if it's old paradigm, you're going to be grasping at straws because
Yeah.
you cannot conceive of the new reality that's about to awaken. And so that's how the conversation I've been having by myself that I feel like I've really been waking up from the past few weeks is like this little thing that are clinging to out of desperation is so old paradigm. Stop.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I mean, I will say, like, that thing is part of why there is such chaos right now is there are so many people that are clinging to this old paradigm and this old system that is actively dying. It is
And
actively decaying.
trying to say, oh, well, if I fix this system this way, or if I can have more of a piece of this system where I think it's the system itself that we're
Yeah.
tired of. And
Yeah.
so it would be, are you suggesting it would be a little more advantageous to just consider what your role is and what your passion is and your purpose is if you were not confined to a current system?
Yes, that is, I love that you said passion because that's another hallmark of the Aries energy is following your passion, following what lights you up. I know you talk about the turn on, like following what turns you on. And I think part of the struggle right now is as a society, we've talked about this before, we're in this system where we are conditioned to glorify toxic sacrifice, um, toxic productivity. We're taught to glorify the struggle, and so if we're not struggling, then it doesn't feel right. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be struggle with the new system because there's a difference between when you are feeling resistance, when you're feeling discomfort because you're growing, versus feeling discomfort because you are stuck, because you are trapped, because
Interesting.
you're, yeah, yeah. And that's, again, also why embodiment is so important because like recognizing those differences. But with this 0 degrees conjunction, this is the kind of the second part to like the Jupiter Saturn conjunction in 2020 that happened right before the pandemic. That was kind of the seed. And then this is the energy of that seed breaking ground now. Because when you think back to 2020, at first we're all kind of in shock of like, oh wow, okay, the whole world is going into isolation and we're trying to figure out what's going on. But that was where we first started experimenting with new systems, working from home, connecting online more. What we're doing now is we're ideally looking at, okay, that time was unprecedented. I'm just going to use that word. We made it through that. We have the power to create new systems. And what is coming is unlike anything we've ever seen before. And it's so important that 0 degrees Aries is recognizing that we have a hand in it. And it's just a huge thing. I think what we're also in learning is I think we're so used to, even when we're not happy with authority, we're used to, well, someone needs to do something. Someone out there needs to do something. And what we are remembering or relearning is the someone is us, all of us.
We're the saviors we've been waiting for.
Exactly. No one's coming to save us because we are saving ourselves, you guys.
And which is like why we always talk about community. I think community
Mhm.
can sound like such like uh a nothing word, like, oh yeah,
Right.
community, like
Yeah.
no, like, because we don't have to go it alone, but to just think it's either us or the people at the top who tell us what to do, and there's
Mhm.
nothing in between. I think it was such an illusion. I keep using that word, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's so interesting. And it's so funny because you talk about the as a non I'm going to bring up as a non-astrologer, you
Mhm.
said how in 2020 it was Jupiter transiting Saturn. Jupiter
Yeah.
expands. Saturn is truly like the discipline and the disciplinarian and the one who makes you like kind of hunker down. And wow, did that expand us having to hunker down. Now
Yeah.
Jupiter is in Cancer, and Jupiter is really expanding empathy, which is very
Yeah.
Cancerian, and it's going to this summer go into Leo, which again
Mhm.
is very personal power and creation. So we're
Yeah.
on this trajectory of what you were talking about before. It's also being supported with Jupiter, which is like use your empathy to
Mhm.
then step into greater power.
Right. And that's the thing is and we're already seeing that the other really cool thing that I felt was just it really got me in my heart was not just what's going on in Minneapolis, but then all of the um strikes and protests in other cities in solidarity.
Hmm.
And that's and again community, yes, we're looking at like very local things like what we were just talking about, how like you're willing to drive to Trader Joe's. I'm going to my little meat market down the road because it's owned by a family, and they've also got like yard eggs from hens and like homegrown veggies and bougie dog and cat food. um,
Love, love.
but it's also like, the people in LA are in solidarity with the people in Minneapolis because they're also recognizing
Mhm.
your community is my community.
And
And
we
that's
forget
another
that this started in Chicago, and it
yeah,
was a lot of,
yeah.
but this is also
Mhm.
really like, oh, we kind of forget that, but that's
Yeah,
because what started in Chicago gave the Minnesotans the recognition of, I don't think this is going to end well, so having to be connected
yeah.
in that way. And this is why we need to be aware, because us seeing what first happened in Chicago made us realize, oh, this doesn't seem to be, the story doesn't seem to be matching the behavior. And when we
Mhm,
are connected with other communities, we can see, okay, when it comes to my community, I kind of
mhm.
see where this is heading. And
Right.
this is why we want to be united as individual communities, because there's power in that. And we can feed other communities, whether it is through like our demographic communities or our
Yeah,
cultural communities. It's
yeah.
all it's all intersectional, man. And the
It's
dark
intersectional.
feminine is intersectional, man, because
It is.
the dark feminine is inherently concerned with those who don't have a voice, the darkness, the hidden, the repressed. You can't claim to be a dark feminine doesn't mean you wear black latex suits. You know what I mean? And I'm just really hyped up on this right now because there's
Yeah.
been a lot of people out there claiming and using these terms and these words and
Mhm.
claiming to be leaders in these communities who I'm realizing we're just aesthetic. We're just wanted,
Yep.
that we're kind of grifters. It's the death of the grifter. We talked about that last
Yes.
podcast, but um it's not like the dark feminine is concerned with those who giving voice to those who don't have any. Those
Yeah.
they can go to the darkness to recognize those who need to have to be brought to the light through supporting in their advocacy or their giving voice or supporting. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And another aspect of the dark feminine that we're also going to see is a deeper exhumation of what has been taboo. Because I
mm,
mean the dark feminine is about looking at what's taboo because taboo is a method of control. We don't talk
yeah,
about that. We don't look at that. We don't say that. That's not nice. And so the dark feminine is like, I don't care about being nice. The
right.
dark, you know, we've talked before about nice versus kind. Um, but that's the thing is the dark feminine is not going to support these systems of oppression and control that only serve the top and harm everyone else.
And I'm going to just slip in here and give a quick shout out to podcast before this one, if people haven't listened to it, it was an interview with my mentor, Leslie Lyons, who's a Christian. And it was such a good conversation because we
I
really
love
talked about the problem of purity culture.
them.
Um, you know, she really speaks to about how her version of Christianity is for liberation and that she
Mhm.
stands by anything that oppresses people, whether it's a general population or, femmes or women, and, who she serves specifically. But anyway, I just want to throw that out there as like this
Mhm.
purity culture thing. I have been thinking like, oh my gosh, if I was like, Renee Good or Alex Preddy,
Mhm.
like, and all of my identity was brought to the public, like how much people be like, who the fuck cares about this girl? Like, I'm
Right.
dancing dirty on Instagram. I'm
Mhm.
talking about witchcraft. I am not a mother of
Mhm.
children,
Mhm.
I'm not,
You're like, what
I'm
else would you?
unwed. Yeah, I'm single. Like these are all qualities of a person that that puritanical society has said
Yeah.
this person is of lesser value. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of us have been starting to think about that. Like, wow, these people were pretty freaking awesome people, and for some reason,
Mhm.
people are finding a way to drag them because of humanity. Like, what?
Yes. And oh my, I mean, I've got a good healthy dose of gallows humor, and yeah, I was thinking about what would they say about me? Oh,
Yeah,
feral stripper witch.
right. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm not an ICU nurse. I am not a mother of three.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, what would they peg me?
Right. What would they say about me? And it's just like, she has sex with bees in her field. Like, just kidding, I do not have sex with my bees.
No, but that's how it would be twisted. And it's really important that we start, like, that's why I think giving voice to the dark feminine, that
Yes.
it's not, we need to stop judging people based on them not fitting a narrative of purity culture, and that seeing like,
Yes.
oh my goodness, that is such a form of control and manipulation. Oh my goodness, Tara. So maybe all
Yeah.
of this will start to unravel this month.
Yes, and it will. And one thing I will also say that speaks to this, and this is part of like what our task is, our February homework, as well
Oh,
as
we
our
have homework.
2026 homework. You have homework, yes. Um, Part of this influx, especially so Saturn and Neptune in Aries, going back to, we've talked about like the death of the guru, the death of the grifter. A lot of people are predicting like death of religion. I don't actually see that, but what I do see is, for example, you just mentioned Leslie. I have some friends who are Christian and actual Christian who are also speaking out against what is going on with what ICE is doing. And I think it's so important for us to pay attention to where our biases are,
Mhm.
because it's so easy, especially in, I think, the communities that you and I are in, it's so easy to dismiss people who say they're Christian because we have this Christian nationalism that is just always
Different.
in the media. That is a completely different beast than, I mean, there are so many. I have one very good friend I've known since childhood who is a Methodist minister, and like she's one of the real ones, man. Like she is a for reals Christian, and her church is doing incredible things to help immigrants, to help people who have been evicted. So it's checking our bias, and then also going back to what you said about like, hey, what would they say about us, the joke, like, we're not going to be as valuable because we're not moms or we're not ICU nurses. But that's the thing too, is we're really going to need to look at the messaging. And I'm gonna shout out humanity here. One thing I was proud of in the wake of these tragedies, and this is very much about what this energy coming in February, we're already in that energy, is when Renee Good was killed, when Alex Preddy was killed. A lot of the national news syndicates that have been bought by the billionaires were projecting a narrative. Most people, instead of getting on their websites and fighting them, just said, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna try to fight your story. I'm going to get out the truth. I was there. I have cell phone, I'm going to post that. I'm going to share that. Monty Mater has been sharing information, sharing video. So many people have. I said her because she has this massive platform. But what I loved and what kind of helped the hurt in my heart over seeing these people murdered was recognizing, again, this was energy of, this is what we are fighting for. We're fighting for truth.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of pushing back against the people saying like, oh, this, and they had so many derogatory things to say about Renee Good. And it was like, there was the shift of, we're not going to fight you. We're going to fight for getting the real story out. What's actually going on. And that is so the theme of February, of pushing for the truth.
And because of that, it also finally started getting the stories of like Black and brown people who were also killed by ICE, who were like the media didn't even cover.
Yeah, like Keith Porter on December 31st. Yeah. And there's so many.
Didn't even
And that's
make the news because not a white person. So there's there's levels to it, but there is so much power to that people having the phone documentation. And I believe I was hearing that was some kind of Neptunian like photography. And this was when they were first, like something with Neptune, last time it went into Aries was the first time we were able to photograph war.
Yes, because the last time Neptune was in Aries was during the Civil War, or right before it entered. Technically, the Civil War started the day before Neptune went into Aries. Yeah.
Crazy.
But we were in the energy. The energy was there.
Yeah.
And yes, you're absolutely right. That was when photography was becoming more widespread. Beforehand, it was like only the uber wealthy could afford photographs. And the Civil War was the first war that there are photographs available of just everyday people, everyday events going on. Neptune rules artistic medium, and photography is one of those.
Yeah, there's power. So think about the idea of like how through your creative acts, your art, you can use your voice too, but also, there's something with the technology. I know we're like, oh my God, like I want to get off the internet and blah, but it's like, because we had it, it's that George Orwell quote that everyone's saying, that everyone's quoting, is that they try to make you believe something that whatever it is, your eyes try to make you believe something that your eyes are proven otherwise. And without people actually being in the streets and using their phones and capturing and sharing. And I mean, there isn't a front on that right now. Don Lemon, a journalist, was arrested and is for being present and for, as a journalist, documenting and interviewing people at that protest that went into the church in Minneapolis because the pastor or whatever was supporting ICE in some way as an organizer. And it's really interesting that there is like still this oppressive force of like, no, that's dangerous. Like a guy, like silencing journalism is highly unconstitutional and everything against with what our founding fathers were advocating for. And it's like, I keep seeing things like this and like, hey, it's not the canary in the coal mine anymore, y'all. No. It's like, it's freaking happening.
Yeah. And can I just say, speaking of like using art, I love what you did on your page of like how I got a man to buy my house. And then I love that trend. The reason why I love that trend is like, I have very high pattern recognition and I keep quote unquote falling for it. There's been like 5 people that I'm just like, whoa, what? Like one of my friends is like, I'm leaving burlesque. And I was like, oh my God. And then I swiped and I was like, yes.
For those who are listening, this was like an Instagram trend going around where you would do like this very salesy type of clickbait page to get people to swipe through. And then it would be like how to recognize ICE, how to call your congressman and senator. And I think what's his name? Jolly Green Giant or something. It's whatever. That's not what his name is, but there's he's Jolly Red Giant or something like that. He's like a ginger, but
Yeah.
he had started that trend. I believe he had said like how I make $10,000 a month on social media or something like that. And
Right.
then everyone started being like, okay, I'm going to create this clickbait. And mine was how I seduced a man into buying me a house. And then it was like, and people were like, what? And then clickbait swiped through and it was like, I am telling more of a political view of like, I'm not supporting ICE. But yeah, that was a really cool trend that was going around that I'm sure had some kind of astrological alignment because it was like,
Oh, it is classic. I mean, okay, it's Neptunian because one, it's
you're
technically
tricking
a form
people.
of like, well, it's truth without logic because it's drawing people in. Because okay, I admit at first I was like, wait a minute, did Crimson get hacked? I was like, wait, I gotta, and I figured it was gonna be some kind of like satire thing, because I
Yeah.
know you.
Where is
And
she
then I
going with
tried,
this? He's not a
yeah,
sugar
where's she
baby.
going with this? And but that's the thing is it's a playful way to draw people in, and then it shows them this is what we need to be focusing on.
I mean, this is
Right.
what art is for. And you can think, I mean, I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
that's meme art. I
Mhm.
love it. Because art is supposed to
Mhm.
make people feel and it's supposed to provoke thought. I have a
Yeah.
degree in visual arts. Like, art is not this idea that art is just supposed to beautify. I mean, it
Mhm.
can, but how many people are kind of over generic AI art because it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily make you feel something? Whereas, like, art in its essence is supposed to
Yes.
awaken people. It's supposed to speak to the times.
Mhm.
And so yeah, there's a lot of potential. We talked about this. What return to your passion, return to your
Yeah.
authenticity. What are you for and what's your lane? And I love our artists
Yeah.
uniting. I love people, knitting circle. Let's get the knitting circles back together
Yeah.
and let's,
Yeah.
create a
I mean, there's even
revolution.
like a group that's like Quilters Against Ice, and it's a bunch of like adorable old ladies like rage knitting or rage quilting, and I love it. I love like there's just and that's the thing is, and this is also very Aquarius and Aries energy, is we're all needed. We're all
Yeah.
needed. We all need your specific unique expression of your passion.
Yeah. Are you do you animal sit or do you
Yeah.
child sit, and like are you able to support in that way? Like I think this idea, again, the monolith of Aries where it's like it's a warrior and you're strap a
Yeah.
bomb to yourself. We're not all Luigi Majoni or whatever his last name
Yeah.
is. We're not all Luigi. Like
Yes.
that we shouldn't all be Luigi. That's
No, no, yeah,
don't go killing people, y'all. That's
yeah,
not what we're advocating for.
yeah.
We're saying from a dark feminine esoerotic perspective, how can you use embodied passion and turn on to align with your values and your purpose and what you're for, and a creation of a new world, a new paradigm. But don't fall for the idea that it has to look one way or another. We all have value. We all have our different propensities, but
Yes.
also remember that if it's coming from a fear-based clinging of old systems,
Mhm.
it may be influenced by that system versus we want to kind of think of how we can create beyond those limitations.
Yes. Yes. And and we're going to get another dose, another opportunity to reflect on it, review where we're going, because we conclude February with our first Mercury retrograde
I was
of
like, I know
2026.
Mercury's going retrograde, ain't it?
Ah, yes. So the exact date on that is February 25th.
Okay. My gosh. It's been an hour and we're just on February 25th. We're almost there, y'all.
It's okay. It's a short month. We're yeah.
Thank goodness. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the last kind of notable thing, notable transit for February. And this year, 2026, the Mercury retrogrades all happen in water signs. So Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. And general themes for that, anytime we have a Mercury retrograde in a water sign, water is dealing with the unspoken messages. the reading between the lines, the emotional intelligence. And so, like I said, February 17th to the 25th is a pretty packed week astrologically, and it's also pretty powerful energetically, because with Mercury going retrograde in Pisces, this is a review of the unspoken messages, what we are picking up on that is not being directly said.
Intuition, it's reminding me of.
Yes, yes. And especially and this happens anytime we have a Mercury retrograde, because Mercury is that planet of our mental acuity, our communication, our thought processes. It also rules, local transportation, contracts, stuff like that. What happens is when Mercury goes retrograde, our normal kind of linear thinking, conscious thinking goes, it takes more of a back seat to our intuition. Our intuition gets really heightened during that time, which is why if we are operating an ego, if we're trying to force something, we may not always notice the messages, which is when things kind of go haywire with Mercury retrograde. The intuition is going to be kind of exponentially amplified with the Mercury retrograde in Pisces, and then again in Cancer, and again in Scorpio. And what we may see during that time is just one thing that kept coming up when I was making my notes for this is messaging from authority that looks okay. It looks like, oh, okay. It looks like they're backing off, or it looks like they're trying to accommodate us, but then there's something else going on underneath it. And I'm not saying like make your foil a hat or anything. But what I'm saying is it's so important to trust those intuitive signals. And then also from a personal level, Mercury retrograde is such a gift for reviewing anything that you're manifesting, anything that you're working on. It is such a gift to like review, go over it, rest, take time to see like, okay, how am I doing? Is this where I want to keep going? Do I need to course correct? Do I need to emphasize something more? But really paying attention to the intuition that's coming up during that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I love
Yeah.
that. That's a really great time to then to be doing your shadow work, to be doing your
Yes.
embodiment so you stay connected to your intuition. I love this. I mean, I know that we can get real excited about astrology
Hmm.
because we're astrology nerds like that,
Oh
but
yeah.
um this really is the month. This is the month where it begins, and I just want to say two things. One, that I'm um for, so grateful for you, Tara,
Mhm.
and to be a leader in our community, because you really are such an empowered inspiration for us.
Thank you.
Of course. And
I love that.
yeah, I'm grateful for our community. We were
Mhm.
talking before we started recording that I am really blessed that I think because you and I have used our voices, that we have an aligned community, not a monolithic one, not one that
Yeah.
is controlled, not one who it's a community. And we have talked the past between having an audience and a community.
Yeah.
But what I love is that we have a community in the multiverse, and then in our, individually as
Mhm.
well. Like, people care,
Yeah.
and people are willing to get uncomfortable for a greater purpose. And
Yeah.
people really see the value in recognizing their magic and in their feminine potential. And they ultimately have this desire to grow and be a part of the solution, and not just spiritually bypass. I love that we don't have a spiritually bypassing community, and we have really great conversations in the multiverse and in our classes and stuff. And so I just want to shout out to our community for you know, being part of it. And then I'm just going to shamelessly plug that third week of February is when I start esoteric certification. And the reason for
Woo!
that is because as we take off, I want to be in a group of leaders and change makers who want to unite in the dark feminine. So real quick, it starts February 21st. And I was like, do I push it back? And I'm like, no, I want to be in a group of other leaders at that time so we can have those deeper conversations. People who want
Yeah.
to lead community, people who want to lead through the dark feminine. There's 2 certifications. One is for people who just want to learn more about how to lead through the dark feminine and dark feminine magic. There's going to be a module on community, on how to like support community within that as well. And then there's the other certification who want to learn that in addition to actually teaching esotericism. So if you don't want to teach esotericism, but you're like, this dark feminine leadership is turning me on. How do I ritualize experiences in community to make change for transformation? That's our 1.0 esoteric certification. I literally created that for people who want to learn this stuff without teaching esotericism. And it's all virtual. And then we
Mhm.
have the ones who want to teach esotericism. I want to be, in addition to our community, with a community of change makers and leaders at the same time, who are inspired and devoted to this dark feminine work in this new energy. So I just like had to throw that out there. Please
Yes.
join me. Just go to esoerotic.com and look for the certification navigation. It's a whole page. It'll tell you all of the things. I would love for you to join. But I think being united in a non-bypassy empowered community is super important right now. So I'm grateful for our community with leaders like Tara, and we're all leaders in our own way. I don't
Yeah.
mean that in like a pedestal-y way, but in a
Mhm.
hey, like we're all leaders in some aspect of our life.
Yeah, and that's also classic Aquarius Aries energy too, of recognizing where you are a leader. Because and that's the thing, is one thing I also want to point out is this movement toward, there's been those posts on Instagram that's like the future is feminine. And then there's a lot of low vibe that's like, oh no, what does that mean for the masculine? Um it's just like, y'all calm the fuck down.
I
Um
know. Just we're not men hater. That's
No,
crazy.
no, we love men. It's coming off of this very rigid hierarchy, though, because that's the systems that we have been in, is this rigid hierarchy that has become stagnant and oppressive. With what we mean with the expansion of the dark feminine, or the future is feminine, is this isn't a rigid hierarchy where some of us are leaders, the rest of us are below. It's recognizing the value in all of us, the leadership in all of us, and
Which is
that yeah, and
sorry,
we're
keep
interconnected. Yeah.
and I was just gonna say, and this is why we're fighting authoritarianism right now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that word right.
Oh,
Authoritarianism. How do you
yeah.
say that? Authoritarianism. There we go.
Authoritarianism. Yeah, it's a big
Authoritarianism.
word and it's an ugly word, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yes. And it's why we're fighting authoritarianism right now, is because we recognize that that's not an empowered structure where
No.
people at the top and everyone, and that's what it literally is, parallels to what we were saying, the difference between having an audience and a community, and how a lot of grifters had audiences, and that we're seeing moving forward that the future is community based, not do as I say, guru type of person at the top, everyone below me file into place culture. Like that shit's dead.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's why I do
yeah.
believe that like we are going to prevail, because I see astrologically how that is fallen away. So is
Mhm.
the authoritarianism, so is all of that.
Yeah.
But we need to be present in what we are putting in its place.
Yes, yes. And I think the final thing that I'll say too, just because I was thinking about this ever since we mentioned the Civil War, part of the discomfort and the sacrifice is I'm be real with y'all kids. We when we look at, because of course we've been talking about, our Pluto return as a country. We've talked about, there's been this overlap in astrology from 1776, when the modern iteration was founded, and the Civil War. And we look at those 2 points. What has happened? We look at the Constitution. We look at the Civil War, the aftermath of it. Part of why we are called to be in discomfort is because, I'm going to say it, we did not do the work before. Like, even the Constitution, we couldn't even include white wealthy women. Like, that's how fucked up it was. Like, we didn't include any. We only included basically rich white dudes. Which, if
No
back
indigenous
then, yeah, no
representation,
indigenous,
no feminine,
no
no
non-white,
color. Yeah.
no, not even the rich white women that
I
were,
know.
and they were only rich because they were married to the Jews because they didn't have any say in their lives. And we fucked it up then. We fucked it up at the beginning, and then with the Civil War, we had the Civil War, and then I was telling someone, and this may piss some people off, but I'm also gonna say it. When we had Reconstruction, the North treated the South the way the Allies treated Germany after World War One. They were so brutal that Germany just got really fucking bitter about it, and they came back and they're like, "Ha ha, we have Hitler," and that's been a giant problem. The
Yeah.
South was really embittered, and so then they were not there. There was no true healing done. I mean, we obviously know what occurred between the end of the Civil War and then the Civil Rights Movement, and we know obviously the Civil Rights Movement did not fix everything. There continues to be oppression and systemic prejudice, and so anyway, it's just, we are in this space of moving through what's needed to be done, and at first it is going to be very uncomfortable, and it will be worth it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
And when
know,
we say inclusive, it's not just liberals, and it's not
yeah.
just, we're not just like it's uncomfortable. It's
Mhm.
uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this before, but Tara and I love this girl online, Monty Mater, and
Yes.
she's pretty cool. And she shares a lot of what's going on in the political climate, but also she was raised very Christian fundamentalist, white nationalist.
Yeah.
And so she
Yeah.
has a lot of talking points against what a lot of um, Christian nationalists are
Mhm.
talking points that they're trying to use. But what got her unradicalized was her having dinner with a gay couple. And when she said really offensive things to them, they didn't lose their shit. They stayed
Yeah.
and talked with her.
Mhm.
And unravel, it's a brainwashing, right? And like I
Yeah.
always try to think, okay, where am I
Yeah.
brainwashed? Like, I am asking these questions to myself because I know that when I start saying this side, I got to be like,
Mhm.
woo.
Right.
Let's not just dishumanize. I don't even know what the word is for that, but let's not dehumanize. That's the word. Let's not
Yeah.
dehumanize those with different perspectives, but that's how
Mhm.
we change. I've
Yeah.
never heard anyone who, I forget the gentleman's name, but he's the black guy who goes around to KKK meetings and pulls
Mhm.
people out of, I forget his name. He's awesome.
I
There's been
know.
a
I
lot of,
know. I know who
he's
you're
so
talking
cool,
about. I'm
right?
saying it too.
But he goes, and believe me, I want to scream in people's faces sometimes. I
Oh
get
yeah.
so fucking mad.
Girl, same. Girl, same.
But I see what's effective, and I'm more concerned with the greater transformation than me being right. And like
Yeah.
that's something that I'm coming to terms with. Like, I want to be effective. I don't want to be right. And to me, and that's because I have a greater purpose beyond I'm right, you're wrong. And that's uncomfortable. Going back to
Yes.
the uncomfortable of like, ooh, so you want me to like speak to someone without losing my damn mind on something that is, but I think of, if this gentleman could do that with KKK members, if
Yeah.
this gay couple could do this with a Christian fundamentalist, we have hope. And that
Yeah.
maybe a lot of it, maybe we're using the Aries. Don't let the Aries energy control us. Let us use the Aries energy to propel us forward, not to turn us into a ticking time bomb.
Absolutely. Like, courage, not aggression.
Yeah, what is our catalyst? It's like we want to like incite, not incinerate, something like, or
Yeah.
ignite. We want to
Yes.
ignite, not incinerate. Because
Yes.
we're using a lot of fire verbiage, and it doesn't mean that we don't get mad and we're just peace, like
Yeah. Yeah.
we all, there's points where there is aggression, it's just there. It's Tara and I always talk about this, that we love, that we have a mature enough audience that they understand
Mhm.
nuance. Like, we're not saying
Yes.
like this is for everything. Like, you get
Right.
nuance, and like that's the kind of conversations that need to be had. But I
Mhm.
believe that there is a possibility of Aries making us incinerate instead of ignite, and we just have to be aware of that, and that it's not always the most effective way.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it goes back to where are you directing your energy? Because I think there are a lot of people out there that I look at them, I think they're detoxing. And
Mm,
they're looking for answers. And the majority of people that I have come across that I've had conversations with, and I've had people on the internet who like they start out pretty aggressive, and then and there's a part of me that is thinking like, well, fuck this person. But then when I'm actually talking with them, and I'm like, well, this is where I arrived at this information. Now, obviously, there's going to be those trolls that are just going to keep saying horrible things. I'm not going to engage with that. I'm like, you're a bot.
right.
I'm not going to earn you more money. But then there are other like actual humans that like, I know, and even if one conversation does not change their mind, it gives them something to think about,
Yeah.
you know?
And
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 you're also oh, go ahead,
and
please.
yeah, just putting the humanity back into um conversation in general, where, and that's
Yeah.
where we, online has been so amazing, but it has kind
Mhm.
of made us think. I think it has contributed to the us versus them. So it's like,
Yeah.
go touch grass, go to the grocery store, maybe you go shop the grocery store instead of Instacarting or whatever, so you can
Yeah.
be around people. Like, I
Yeah.
think we do need to be around people physically. Go to, and look around and say, these people are just arriving at conclusions based on their life experience. And
Yeah.
I don't think there isn't any excuse to be ignorant or racist or homophobic or
Oh,
xenophobic
yeah.
or any of that shit. But like,
Yeah.
fuck, like,
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
you're out there amongst the people, you bring the humanity back to something, and you can kind of diffuse some situations. And I think it's important for us to not be as divisive as we potentially, it's easy, it's more comfortable to be. That's
Well, yeah,
where.
and even that small act of like looking someone in the eye at the grocery store and having a conversation, that's an act of courage. Like
Mm,
it's not just going downtown to protest. Like, yes, that does take courage
yeah.
too, but just having the conversation with
Yeah.
someone, and being willing to be, meet someone face to face and have a conversation and
Yeah.
realize, and we've talked about this before. There's a lot of people on, like, for example, I come from a conservative family, and the majority of those people they're not racist, they're not bigots. If you look at their ideologies, they're looking at, you know certain tenets. Like, for example, I'm talking about my dad. Go Capricorn dad. What
Is he
was
a
amazing,
fiscal conservative?
he is a fiscal conservative, but part of that, having that conversation about what he is for, it helped him realize, oh, this is not my party anymore. Because for a
Yeah.
long time, because I was like, Dad, why are you a Republican? He's like, I'm the party of small government. I was like, cool. Let's look at, and we had
Let's see how that's backed up by reality right now.
yeah, and we had that conversation back in 2016, or 2018, because yeah, it took him a little bit. But what I loved about it was we were both willing to listen to each other.
Yeah.
And he started to realize, like, oh, okay, this is not in alignment with what I hold in integrity. And so he was able to leave that label. Well, I've always voted Republican, blah blah blah, blah. And so and we still have conversations. And so I think that's the thing, is it takes courage to have those conversations with people. And obviously, like, no one is expecting you to just sit there and be disrespected if someone's going to be rude.
Right.
Part of courage is also recognizing, where's your boundary. That's also Saturn and Aries. Where's your boundary? If someone gets rude, if
Yeah.
someone, or not even rude, but like, well, we were talking about the white ladies who want to spiritually bypass. Um, there's an acquaintance on Instagram that, like, they're always sending me spiritual memes, and I had posted some information about like how to call your representative, things like that. And they pulled a Pam Gregory and they were like, I'm above the news. Like that's just so low vibe. And I've evolved past that. And I hope you can evolve past your anger. And I just was like, you know what? I don't need to,
I don't need to respond. That's
yeah, I
so,
don't need to
yeah.
respond.
Yeah, feeling a full range of emotions is not spiritual. Stop it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I get a weekly email from my congressman, and I always respectfully respond to it. Because he's
Yes.
always like, as a Christian and a this and I'm this, and I'm like, I just want to bring to a point that as a Christian, this is why I'm also asking to not cherry pick on where you apply this, and
Right.
I see where this is actually in opposition of what you've been voting for, and like, I don't know if he reads this shit, but I'm sure he's sick of me, but
Right. Right.
I leave the voice. Are they listening to my voicemails? I don't know, but like, hopefully it's an annoyance, if anything, of like, okay, when your inbox is empty versus your inbox is full, you realize that, wow, I do report to people. Like,
Yes.
there's people who I'm, here to represent, so
Mhm.
I think it's an amalgamation of all the things, and there's
Yes.
not one answer, and there's not one right way, but what I hope that you and I are advocating for is personal power, personal
Yep.
responsibility, not avoiding, not
Mhm.
bypassing, stripping away external influences to arrive at your authenticity,
Yes.
and knowing that you that any that we are in an energetic time where things are changing, and we can handle this, and we can handle this together, and this can
Yes.
actually be a really positive thing, and that being
Mhm.
uncomfortable doesn't inherently mean that you are unsafe or in a bad situation. It
Yeah.
could, but a lot
Right.
of times it's just uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes. Recognizing, what is, again, like what is, growth discomfort
Yeah.
versus unsafe.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
important.
also why, with Saturn moving into Aries, and it's in Aries for about 2.5 years, um, our body systems are really going, it's really going to create this sensitivity. And that's another word that we're going through deconditioning.
Mhm.
Sensitivity, it means highly attuned. And one of the good things about that is, I mean, our bullshit meters are going to be so primed. And what's going to be important is, we're not going to be able to override those signals. And so it's going to be important. Another thing of Aries is, I know we're talking about like fire and going forward, but Saturn in Aries is also about like recognizing your seasons even more acutely.
Mm.
Recognizing when, yep, I'm in discomfort, I'm growing, I'm pushing, and then, oh, okay, now it's time to rest, to regroup, to assess where my energy needs to be directed next. And making
Yeah.
that choice for myself.
And this is where, your somatic
Mhm.
practices come in. We need to,
Yeah.
you have your somatic alchemy class. I have my esoteric ritual class. There are so
Yeah.
many different, like, emotional processing, energetic processing classes, because when you are primed that your default state is a lack of safety, you're going
Hmm.
to feel unsafe doing anything in the world. Having to shop at a different grocery store is going to feel unsafe, right? So
Yeah.
we have to, as is within, so is without. That's why we are always advocating for body-based practices that can help
Hmm.
us, support us in our greater mission, because the body has such a higher influence than I think people like to talk about. I mean, this is a cerebral podcast. We just talked about
Yeah.
ideas, but it means nothing if you can't carry the idea in your body,
Yeah.
And so embodiment and anchoring and all of that is always going to be supremely important. Tara, we have been going on for 90 minutes. The people, anyone who's still listening, my gosh. I want to reel us in. So, because we could babble all day. And if you want to
Oh
babble
yeah.
with us, come play with us in the multiverse where we babble
Yeah.
on in classes. But Tara, how do you want to wrap up the month? What kind of messages do you want to lead us with? Because we went on a journey today, so I will put the pressure on you to wrap it all up in a nice little bow.
Yes. Okay. So bringing it all back in, uh, the like I said, we started with these keywords of courage, authenticity, and sacrifice. The main thing is just embodied integrity and embodied spirituality. So really coming home to yourself. And if you work on nothing else in February, working on where do I want to go? What turns me on?
Wow, that was a nice little bow. Oh,
Yeah.
well, Tara, this is awesome. I'm already like projecting forward to our March 1st,
I know.
our March astrological podcast and just to say what happened over the past month. So, oh my goodness, to future us, we can't wait to meet you. But in the
Yes.
meantime, I know that I am sending so much love to you, so much love to anyone who stuck with us for the 90 minutes and, people were doing this work. We love you. We got this. We can be uncomfortable. And we have a greater purpose in this world. And now we have the opportunity. What a blessing to actually be able to. There's been so many times in the past where we couldn't have an influence. And now
Mhm.
we have this privilege to be able to. So
Yes.
what a blessing. So
Yes.
sign us
All
off.
right.
Sign us off, Tara.
All right, y'all. Love each other, love yourselves, and happy stargazing.
Bye. Thank you for joining. Follow me on Instagram at crimson.minx and visit esoerotic.com to learn to live more fully and unapologetically in your magnetic power, sensual pleasure, and unlimited creative potential.